Once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. Joining me once again tonight from Noble Gold, my good friend Collin Plume. Collin, what's going on, brother?
Hey, how are you?
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a crazy few weeks in the markets. Just so much is happening. Tesla had its big pullback, and I've been watching some videos about. I watched this video of this guy who he was talking about he had 60% of his net worth in Tesla stock, and it's interesting because he bought it at a good price, and then didn't want to sell it because he didn't want to pay the tax. And so that's why he held it, and then he held it obviously a little bit too long, and it had a pullback, which is an interesting. I've been in the investment world for a long time. Even before I was in precious metals, I was in commercial real estate, and in commercial real estate, there's a term called the 1031 exchange. So if you have a commercial property and you want to sell it and you don't want to pay the tax, you have to buy a property that is a little bit more than the property you sold. So if it's, let's say, $1 million property, you have to buy a property that's $1,001,001, and you avoid paying the capital gains. And it's interesting that people would buy a property that they didn't even really want to just avoid the tax, or they didn't even really believe in. And I guess, there's a theory behind that. Obviously, nobody wants to pay the government, but it's interesting how investors will do the really sometimes things that make no sense just to avoid the tax, whereas maybe it makes sense to, take that profit, pay the tax, and then pivot, move it into a different direction. And I saw lots of investors, doing that with when I was in commercial real estate. They would just buy the property they end up in wasn't a great property, but they just wanted to park the money no matter what. And I just don't think it's a great investment strategy. But yeah, it's interesting with investments, and people are speculating the stock market. Why is it so high? But one of the reasons I think there is this this propping up is you have a lot of these people that have never been in the stock market with all these new apps, Robinhood, and all these apps. People putting money in. It's a little bit easier to get money in, even if you only put $100 or $200 in. So you have a lot of this money just kind of diving into these platforms, and they don't really know what they're doing, right? They even give you free stock. They even, so you get these people in there, and you've obviously probably read a lot of these stories about kids that have over leveraged. I read about a kid that over leveraged his account, and he thought he was owed like $600,000, and then he just basically committed suicide because he said he could never pay that back.
Wow.
And so there's this new dynamic where they're looking for that quick fix. And as much as I like accessibility and I like the idea of people be able to get their money in, I think we have to be careful about, investments, and people really need to think about, it's just, even if you put $10 in, you could leverage $10 and you could lose $5,000. Or this 24-year-old kid that committed suicide, I think he only had like $6,000 or $7,000 in the account. He was able to lose, $300,000-$400,000.
How is that possible, though? I mean, I don't understand. I guess I don't understand the mechanism of it. I figured if you have $7,000 to invest, you put it into the market, you buy some stocks. I mean, was he like shorting things, or?
Yeah, you can short, or you can leverage based on, you can put that amount in, and then if you don't have a stop loss on your trade, then if the trade goes totally sideways, then because you can leverage $10 into $5,000 depending on how much leverage the app will give you. There's platforms, and you've seen these things where people say turn $100 into $10,000 in a day. The only way you could do that is that you're leveraging that money, and so you could win, and you can go that route and make $10,000 a day, but also there's the chance that you could lose $10,000 a day.
Sure.
Which is really, it's not for everybody. Not everybody has that level of risk tolerance to be able to do it. And you and I were kind of talking about cryptocurrencies, and obviously that's an area where a lot of people are starting to take some risks. But with those investments, you have to know that the risk level is there. And I think for the majority of investors that aren't savvy, leveraging those accounts is not really the smartest way to go, in my opinion.
So is that the kind of thing that you can do in Robinhood? Because I mean, I've got a Robinhood account. A couple years ago, a buddy of mine sent me a text message and said, if you sign up with, my code, then you get a free stock. I got the free stock, but I never had any money to throw into it. I mean, I just kind of figured you would just use it to buy other stocks. I mean, they've kind of made the idea of day trading and being a trader really sexy, like more people do it nowadays than have ever done it. They've made it extremely easy. And so I'm kind of shocked to hear that they would make it easy enough for people to just completely lose everything. I mean...
Yeah. Well, that's because the way that their system, a lot of these companies, their systems are set up, they don't make money on a lot of these just you buying a regular stock. Really, the money is in leverage because that's where the fees are. So that's why they'll kind of lean you in that direction. And they'll ask you some qualifying questions about your level of experience and things like that. But I mean, if you answer the questions in the way that they want, guess what? You're day trading with leverage. And, as much as it does seem exciting, as you mentioned, it seems extremely exciting. It's not for everybody because the years that it takes to be able to do that, the amount of money you need to have set aside to do that is probably not what a lot of people have to do this. That's why they're sort of drawn to this get rich quick. The one thing about gold and silver that has always been appealing to me is that when I buy it, my wife and I, we buy every quarter, and we just sock it away. The idea of selling it's hard. And it's almost like real estate in a way, is that you just kind of buy it, you hold it, and you don't get that temptation to want to sell it because you're holding it for long term, and you're thinking that long-term strategy. And I think more people need to think about, maybe you want to have some riskier stuff out there, but right now in this economy is having some things that are kind of set away that can grow without you constantly have to trade them and manipulate them, is something you really want in your portfolio. And I think most people don't have the time to watch these things on a day-to-day basis, get in and out quick enough. Like Tesla's a great example. All these people that probably bought Tesla over the last year, they did great, and then had this big pullback, and they never really wanted to sell because it's not their job to do that. So I think you have to look at some safety investments, some real estate, precious metals, things that are going to hold long term. And then if you want to be active, then you jump on one of these apps. But the leverage idea is really it's a scary thing for most people. I think most people should avoid it. So
yeah, I mean, it almost makes me think that perhaps these apps are kind of preying upon people. I mean, it stands to reason that if you allow somebody to just throw their entire life savings into an application and then make them feel like, hey, you could win the money, but then knowing full well how easy it would be for them to just lose it. I mean, it seems like maybe it's a little dishonest. I mean, how would they even collect something like that? I mean, it's not like Days of the Shylock in Brooklyn. I mean, nobody's going to come around and break your legs or anything.
Yeah, I don't know how they would collect it. I think that's a great question. I don't know how that leverage is set up and what kind of collateral you're supposed to have on the account. But listen, I mean, they're coming in and they're starting to regulate everything. And we were talking about now they want all cryptocurrencies. Next year on your taxes, they want to see everything you have. The government's starting to move into crypto. They want to be involved more. They're moving towards this digital dollar. This is where things are going. So everybody's moving away from thinking about money the way that they should. Every kind of money sort of is becoming play money, which is not really the greatest thing. And there's got to be fundamentals that have to come into effect. And I think more importantly for an investment point of view, everybody has to understand the level of risk that they can tolerate. And so, that's why we've been, I think, so incredibly busy, is because everybody understands what gold and silver is. They understand the fundamentals that, listen, gold is used in all kinds of industries, medical industry, cancer research, I mean, you name it. Plus, countries use it as collateral to borrow money to buy goods. Silver's used in everything, cell phones, solar panels, these are things that people understand. So it makes sense why they're going up. But some of these stocks that people are buying in these apps, they may just buy them because they're cheap or it looks really promising. But, I've always felt that, there's definitely a level of luck and a level of gambling when it comes to the stock market. And you really have to be careful before you dive, full on in and put, as you said, your life savings into something like this.
Yeah, the idea of cryptocurrency has always struck me as the same type of investment as precious metals because, unless you know that something is going to skyrocket in a very short period of time and you know that you're going to cash out, but I mean, how could you truly know that? I mean, it's all a gamble. I mean, you have a set amount of money, you put it into whatever it is, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, silver, gold, you let it sit there because over time it is going to increase in value. And then when it's time, you can go ahead and take it out. What really makes me nervous is the idea of the United States going to some type of sanctioned cryptocurrency, like a digital dollar, because right now decentralized cryptocurrencies are great. People can do commerce amongst themselves, but if we switch to an all digital dollar, imagine what that's going to do to the economy. I mean, first of all, they're going to get a lot more money in taxes because there's not going to be any way to go around the government having their fingers in every transaction. But I think it's also going to disenfranchise a lot of people because you would have to have the means to transfer this digital cryptocurrency. And whether it's a cell phone or a computer, I mean, I certainly am not looking forward to getting a chip in my hand or something like that. But I mean, I know that that's kind of the direction that I think they'd like to go.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah, I think that they'd like to see what everybody is able to do on a daily basis. And obviously it has to do with taxes, right? They want to be able to tax it more. I look at it is I can't stop where things are going. If that's where things are going to go, then I want to be prepared for it and maybe profit from it. So if you're telling me the digital currency is going to be like a Bitcoin where there's going to be a limited supply, I'm not totally against that because the dollar is just being printed like mad and it is not, is losing value every day. So some parts of it are intriguing in that aspect. Bitcoin and gold have that limited supply aspect. So I do believe that those aspects are good. What I think could happen with cryptocurrencies, two things that I think could happen in the next 5 years with cryptos. One, I think a country, third world country will adopt Bitcoin as its currency. I think a country like, everyone's seen what's happened in Zimbabwe and all these countries that have been hyperinflated. I mean, what if they went with Bitcoin as their currency? So that's one thought of mine that I've talked about a long time for the last 3 or 4 years. The other thing is that what if Ethereum, it becomes a company? What if because in a way that's what they really are, right? They're providing technology. What if they shift their shell of this currency, this coin, and they use all that wealth to dominate that industry? They dominate, obviously there's the proof of concept and the way that they're doing things, but what if it shifts? What if they become a company? What if Ethereum, Ether becomes a company? If that's the case, then I think the values of today are a fraction. And, we're seeing, Ripple, obviously they talk about Ripple being used in transactions with banks and maybe moving away from the Swift code elements, what the banks use. So, I mean, in a way they're almost there, but no one's converted it to actually becoming a company. So maybe, let's say everyone has Ethereum, goes, okay, maybe my Ethereum right now is not going to be worth what it's worth today. Maybe I'll drop the value of it and we'll dump that and make it a corporation. So that Ether becomes a corporation and we have all this money and all this wealth and let's be frank, the smartest people in the world own these things, right? And they pull their money together to build, like a super company to compete with some of these bigger companies. If that's where we're going, then I think cryptos will be completely undervalued from where they are today. Now, I don't know if they were. This is totally my speculation. Yeah. But I think it just seems like they're moving. They're going to eventually figure out a way to take over some of the technology that some of these other Googles and some of these other companies are offering.
Well, isn't Ether unique in that there are other cryptocurrencies and like other types of technology being built off of it? So it's like virtual offshoots?
Yeah, so it's that open code is the one that a lot of the other cryptocurrencies use, a lot of medical industries are using. So that blockchain is sort of perfected. It's the information moves quicker than on like Bitcoin and some of the other ones. So yes, absolutely. A lot of different people are using that technology, that open source technology, to build other things, but they haven't, in a way, created an environment where they're sort of their own company and entity, and that's where I think things will go. Because if you look at the people that are buying these, it's all the tech people, it's all the people that work at Google, it's all the people working, all the people that are controlling the way that technology is moved, controlling the way that we are getting information, controlling the way that we're getting all of our products, are all the same owners of these cryptocurrencies. And so there has to be a future to where this technology is going, more than it's just a coin that people are trading back and forth. There's got to be another level there that is going to come, and if that happens, then I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see these cryptocurrencies that people own become more valuable than the S&P and the Dow and all the other things that are out there. If that's where things are going, because really the proof of concept that someone on both ends of the transaction, it's all verified through that blockchain. The applications for that are limitless. There's no ending of applications for that, and I think I think the future is really bright. So I like it. I like cryptocurrency. I'm excited about it. I know you're an owner. We own stuff. We're there. But I'm interested to see where it's going to go in the future. It's definitely a riskier investment than the stuff we talk about, gold and silver. But I think if someone understands that risk, it could be pretty exciting.
Well, you mentioned the technology and where it might go. Are you aware of the patent application that the post office put in back in February of 2019? It was only just publicized in the last month, for a blockchain voting system. So the ledger, obviously equally distributed amongst all people. You can only get one vote if you are listed in the database on the blockchain, and it would essentially cut out anybody from voting twice. There would be no illegal votes. They wouldn't be able to harvest ballots in the way that they've done in California and in Arizona. I mean, have you heard about that at all?
Yeah, I heard about it. I heard about it actually years before that, because I had a few friends that were that I ended up talking to. They were people that always worked at the polling stations, and it was something that was kind of circulating around. They heard about it, and I read about it, and obviously was fascinated with that premise. And I love the idea on so many levels. Yeah. Not you wouldn't have to leave your home. I mean, there's all kinds of benefits, because I think the more voting is easy, the more people will vote. So yeah, I'm not surprised it's there. Obviously, it's coming to the forefront now with everything going on with COVID. It's interesting timing. But our country with technology, we move slow, and I think there's a lot of people in the world, in the United States, that aren't completely comfortable with that premise. But I think, like I said, it's where we're going. Eventually we'll go there, but it's not going to happen in November this year.
Yeah, unfortunately. And right now, quite honestly, is probably the best time that we could have in this country to implement it, because stuff is so up in the air. And obviously, there's going to be a little bit of cheating that goes on once we get to November. So hopefully it gets implemented quickly and everything doesn't go haywire on November 3rd. All right. Well, Collin, what do you want people to be left with? What do you want us to pay attention to in the next month?
Well, I would say, obviously we have the election going on, and that could throw the markets in a lot of different directions. But this volatility in the stock market, it's not going to just keep going like this. Eventually, we're going to see it. It's going to have this pullback that everyone's been talking about. I don't know if it'll happen right before the election or right after election, but it can't hold up. We still have unemployment, 8.7, 8.9, 8.8, 8.9%, which is really high unemployment. A lot of the numbers I think are propped up if you really factor in full-time employment. So I think people got to be cautious right now and just, make sure, as we've talked about, risk, right? What's your level of risk tolerance with where you're at? And if you're looking for something different, you want to learn about gold, contact Noble Gold Investments, and either we can get it to you. Oh yeah, we have the great promotion. Yeah, that coin.
I forgot.
Apollo 11 coin. Yeah, we forgot about that coin.
This is so cool.
Coin. Yeah, it's a great coin. I think it's one of the most interesting coins that the U.S. Mint has ever made. So anyone that does a qualified IRA with us this month will get that coin for free. So they're going to get that delivered to their doorstep so they can have their gold and silver in their IRA. Then they're going to get that beautiful coin delivered. $300 value right now, in my opinion, $1,000 to $2,000. I would say in the next 6 to 10 years. I think that coin is just phenomenal. Everybody loves it. So
awesome. Yeah, it's not often that you see coins like this from the U.S. Mint. I mean, usually it's a basic coin, I mean, when they start getting fancy like that, they're coming from an outside mint or something. So this is really cool. I was excited to get that in the mail. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All the best. And yeah, just anyone who wants free information, you can do gold and silver, or if you want to do cryptocurrencies in your IRA also, we do that. So you can do both within the same account, which is fantastic. So anyone that wants to learn about either one of those products in their IRA or outside, give us a call.
All right, awesome. And that information will be in the pinned comment or the description below. Collin, thanks again for joining us, dude. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
We'll see you. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to thank everyone for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet, I urge you to please consider subscribing. There will be a couple of videos that pop up if you want to continue to watch. There's also some ways in the description of this video that you can follow me on other platforms. Please consider doing that as well. And if you want to support the program directly, there are means to do that below as well. Thank you all for your support over the last couple of years. Consider liking and sharing this video and help me get the real news to people who don't yet know they've been lied to.